hope somebody watches these one day. There's a lot of work. Alright, we're working on the Raven. We're working on the Raven. We're working on the Raven. If this is the first video you're watching, if you're just tuning in, then go check out the other videos. Tube notching, making longerons, you know what I mean? If you're not working on airplanes, it's okay. It's the same concept, whether you're working on a Jeep or something like that, alright? Last time, crikey! Last time we were notching tubes, and this time we are going to look at fitting tubes. So you're not always going to be able to use the tube notcher to get the tubes exactly where you want them. The notcher is great for simple, you know, 90s or 30, 60s or whatever, 30, 70s. It gets a little more complex. It gets a little more complex than that, especially where you've got complicated tube clusters. Such as, we're going to make a tube that goes from that cluster down to this cluster. It's on a weird angle. Your notcher can't do that. That's just crazy. That's just ridiculous. So we're going to use this and we're going to use the Dremel, we're going to use files, we're going to use simple tools to get this bad boy put back together. Cut the tube, fit the tube, notch the tube, fit the tube, Dremel the tube, fit the tube, file the tube, fit the tube, back, forth. That's the way you do it. Let's do it. Sometimes you can cut off a pretty good curve just by holding it on an angle against a disc sander. You can see this is already a pretty complex cut as it is. Getting there. The angles are right. We just got to cut a lot more off. Okay. So here's an example where you're trying to fit a tube into a cluster where the tube's longer than it needs to be because you haven't made the bottom cut, but you're trying to fit the top piece. Because it's offset while you're trying to fit it here. You see that? Because it's offset while you're trying to fit it, you don't know for sure whether or not it's going to sit tightly against it or not. So a good trick for this is to take another tube that's the same diameter and just clamp it next to the tube you're fitting it onto, so that you can get a square fit before you cut the bottom and cut it the length, so you know that it's going to sit square against it when it's perpendicular to it. Okay, so anyway, I just didn't want to give the misconception that all the tubes can be put on the airplane just by cutting with a tube notcher. Maybe when you're building a roll bar or something simple-ish like that from scratch, you can get away with that. But if you're doing any kind of a repair, it's going to take more than just a tube notcher. I found the best way to fit tubes was on the bench grinder with a rounded off bench grinder wheel. I'll talk more about that in my next damn good tool video, so watch that one. Keep in mind that the recommended tolerance for fitting tubes is no gaps thicker than the thickness of the filler rod. We will maybe talk about that a little more
in the welding episode when we're gonna weld this baby back up. If you can't tell, it's already welded up. I jump around a little bit. You never know where I'm gonna be. You gotta move fast, like a cat. You gotta make yourself big like a bear, fast like a cat. You know what I'm saying? So that's it for this, okay? We fit tubes. We fitted a lot of tubes. That was 90% of the work to fix this thing, okay? That's why I talked about it a lot. We're moving on. We're moving on from the tubes, maybe, hopefully. That's it for this one. That's it. That's all I have to say about that. See ya!